She was supposed to be just another client. But she became every thought I tried to bury. The first time she walked into my studio, I forgot what I was supposed to say. She wasn't loud or dramatic about her entrance. It was quieter than that. The sound of her heels softened on the old wood floor, a faint trace of jasmine drifting in behind her. She didn't belong to this place, not really. The dim light, the sketches pinned crookedly on the walls, the mess of unfinished work. But somehow, she made the room look intentional, like it had been waiting for her to step into it. "Elena Reed," she said, offering a hand, calm, deliberate. Her tone carried the kind of steadiness that makes you straighten your posture without realizing it. I told her my name, but my voice cracked halfway through. She smiled, not out of amusement, but recognition. As if she already knew I'd react like that. She was supposed to be a client. That's all. A portrait commission. One meeting. Maybe two. But she had this way of looking, not at you, but through you, like she could see every word you decided not to say. And it made me clumsy. While I adjusted the lighting, she watched quietly from the chair, her hands folded, her body angled slightly away but her gaze fixed on me. The air felt heavy with things either of us could name. Every movement sounded louder, the creak of the stool, the scratch of charcoal against paper, even her soft exhale when I asked her to turn her head a little. "Like this?" she asked. Her voice was low, warm, and careful, the kind that fills a silence without breaking it. "Yeah," I managed. "Just like that." I told myself to focus on the lines, her jaw, the curve of her neck, the light catching in her hair. But my hand hesitated when I reached for the paper again. The sound of her bracelets sliding down her wrist made me look up. Her eyes met mine. She didn't move. There's a certain danger in stillness, when everything slows just enough for you to notice what's been building. The quiet becomes electric. You start noticing the rhythm of your heartbeat, the warmth of someone sitting 3 feet away, the way their breathing syncs with yours without either of you meaning for it to happen. That's how it was with her. Every second stretched longer than it should have. My throat felt dry, my hand trembling slightly above the page. She noticed, of course. Elena didn't miss things like that. "You draw everyone like this?" she asked softly. "Like what?" "Like you're trying to remember them." I didn't answer. Her lips parted, just a little. She looked away, but not fast enough. I saw something flicker there. Regret, maybe? Or recognition. The room felt smaller. My chest tighter. She shifted in her seat, brushing her fingers through her hair, the motion so ordinary yet impossible to ignore. A strand fell across her face. Without thinking, I reached out, but stopped halfway. She froze. Either of us spoke. The clock ticked once, twice. The sound landed like thunder. Then, somewhere behind us, the studio door creaked open. We both turned. A breeze swept in from the hallway, cool and sudden, carrying the faint noise of voices outside. I dropped my hand. She straightened her posture, that practiced calm sliding back over her like a veil. "Your next client?" she asked, her tone almost steady. I nodded, though the truth was, I hadn't booked anyone after her. And for the rest of that afternoon, every time I tried to sketch her outline, all I could see was the moment before the door opened, the space where my hand almost touched hers. The line I didn't cross. Not yet. The second session was supposed to be simple. A few reference shots, some light adjustments, nothing more. But she arrived early. Elena stood by the window when I walked in, sunlight washing over her hair, softening everything sharp about her. She turned when she heard the door close, smiling like she'd been caught doing something she shouldn't. "I didn't want to wait in the car," she said. It felt strange. I told her it was fine, but my voice came out too quietly. She noticed, she always noticed. I busied myself setting up the lights, pretending not to see how she had already taken off her coat, how her blouse clung slightly at the shoulder, the faint scent of rain still clinging to her. Outside, the weather had turned gray. The kind that presses against the windows and blurs the edges of the world. I didn't ask about the man in the photograph on her phone, the one she'd left face down on the table. But she caught me glancing once. "He's my ex-husband," she said, almost casually. "We still talk. Sometimes." Her tone suggested the kind of history that never fully dies, it just sinks into quiet places. "I didn't mean to pry," I said. "You didn't." I left it there. Silence followed, the kind that hums between two people who've said too little and too much at once. When she finally sat for the portrait again, she crossed one leg over the other, slow and deliberate. The hem of her skirt brushed against her knee, her fingers resting loosely over the fabric. I caught myself sketching too carefully, tracing what I shouldn't be tracing. "You're tense today," she murmured, eyes still on me. "Something wrong?" I shook my head, but she didn't look convinced. She rose from the chair, walked over, and stood behind me, close enough that I could feel the warmth of her. The faint scent of her perfume, vanilla and something faintly floral, blurred every coherent thought. Her hand came to rest lightly on my shoulder. "You press too hard," she said. "The line loses its life that way." I could barely breathe. Her voice was low, almost near my ear, her breath grazing the side of my neck when she leaned in to look at the page. My pulse stumbled. "You used to teach art?" I asked, trying to steady my tone. "Once," she said, smiling softly. "A lifetime ago." Her fingers stayed on my shoulder longer than they should have. Just long enough to make the silence mean something. Then she pulled away, too quickly, like she'd realized it. "I should let you work," she said, stepping back. But neither of us moved for a moment. The air between us stayed charged, thick with something that didn't have a name yet. Finally, she turned toward the door, pausing with her hand on the frame. "Next time," she said quietly, not looking back. "Maybe don't hide behind the canvas." And when she left, the studio still smelled faintly of her, like rain on warm skin, and I realized she'd left something heavier than perfume behind. Something that wouldn't leave when she did. By the third session, the air between us wasn't quiet anymore, it buzzed. Every word, every glance carried weight. Neither of us mentioned it, but it sat there, pulsing beneath everything we did. Elena arrived later than usual, a little breathless, hair slightly undone from the wind. "Traffic," she said, slipping her coat off, her tone apologetic but light. Still, something about the way she avoided my eyes told me she wasn't late because of traffic. We worked in near silence. I tried to focus on the lines, her posture, the fall of light on her cheek, but she kept catching me looking too long. When she did, she didn't smile. She just looked back. Long enough to make it impossible to breathe right. I adjusted the lighting again, stepping closer. She turned toward me at the same time, and for a second, we were inches apart. The kind of distance that can't be ignored. Her voice dropped. "You keep moving the light away from me. I'm trying to get it right." "You already did." Her tone wasn't playful. It was soft but firm, the kind of softness that disarms you completely. The studio felt warmer than usual. My hand brushed her arm by accident when I reached for the light stand. Her skin was cool. She didn't move away. Instead, her breath caught, barely audible, but I heard it. Then my phone buzzed. Loud. Sudden. We both flinched. It was a message from Liam, my friend, the one who'd helped me set up the studio. "Be there in 5. Panic flickered across her face for the first time since I'd met her. "Someone's coming?" "Yeah, he's early." Her gaze darted toward the window, then back to me. "We shouldn't be, I know." But neither of us moved. Her hand brushed against mine as she turned to grab her coat. It wasn't intentional, but neither of us pulled away. The contact lingered, like static that didn't know where to go. She looked up at me, close enough that I could see the faint tremor of her eyelashes, the small line that formed near her mouth when she hesitated. "I'm not someone you should get used to seeing," she said quietly. "Too late." The words came out before I could stop them. For a moment, she didn't breathe. Then she exhaled, slow, shaky, and stepped closer instead of away. My back brushed the edge of the table. Her perfume, faint and warm, filled the space between us. Her fingers lifted slightly, almost as if she meant to touch my face. But they stopped halfway, hovering in the air, caught between wanting and remembering. And then, the sound of the door unlocking. We froze. Liam's voice from the hall. "Hey man, I turned toward the noise, but Elena's hand caught my wrist. "Don't," she whispered, eyes locked on mine. "Not yet." The door opened. Light from the hallway spilled in. Her hand slipped away, fast, like it had never been there. But when she walked past Liam with a polite smile, her fingers brushed mine one last time. Just a whisper of touch, quick and deliberate. And that single second, that silent, stolen second, burned hotter than any kiss ever could. Rain started halfway through the evening, the kind that soaks through everything and makes the world sound smaller. I hadn't expected her to show up that night, not unannounced, not after how close we'd come to crossing a line. But she was there, standing in the doorway of my studio, rain clinging to her hair, eyes restless. "I shouldn't have come," she said. She didn't move to leave, though. Neither did I. The lights were low, only the soft glow from the desk lamp painting her face in gold and shadow. Her blouse was damp, the edges of her sleeves dark from rain. I grabbed a towel, offered it out, trying to act casual. "Here," I said. She took it, brushing her fingers against mine. Just a touch, but it sent a spark straight through me. "Thanks," she whispered. She dried her hands, then stopped, looking around the room, at the unfinished sketches, at the portrait of her still pinned on the easel. "You kept it," she said quietly. "I couldn't throw it away." She looked at me for a long time. "You shouldn't say things like that." "Why?" "Because I might believe you." Her voice was calm, but her hands trembled slightly as she tucked her hair behind her ear. I stepped closer before I could stop myself. The air between us was thick with everything we hadn't said, everything we tried to hold back. "Elena," I murmured. "Don't." But her tone betrayed her, soft, pleading, not with anger but with fear. "I can't keep pretending this isn't, it can't be," she interrupted. "You're what? Too young?" Her lips parted, but no words came out. The towel slipped from her hand, falling to the floor. I reached up, brushing a strand of wet hair from her cheek. My thumb lingered against her skin, tracing the line of her jaw. Her breath hitched. She didn't move away. Her eyes lifted to mine, steady, searching, afraid. "You have no idea what this could do," she said. "I don't care." "Yes, you do," she whispered. "You just don't know it yet." The storm outside cracked, thunder rolling through the glass. She flinched, and I caught her hand, instinctively, stupidly. She didn't pull it back this time. Her palm was warm, fingers curling just slightly around mine. "Every time I try to walk away," I said quietly, "you show up again." She looked at our hands, then at me, her eyes shining like she was holding back something heavier than words. "You think it's easy for me?" The silence that followed felt unbearable. She took a small step forward, close enough that I could feel the faint brush of her breath against my chin. "Say it," I whispered. Her voice broke on the words. "I can't." Then she leaned in, slow, uncertain, until her forehead rested against mine. Her lips hovered so close that every breath felt like a promise about to break. And then, a knock on the door. She froze. We both turned toward the sound, still too close to breathe properly. "Elena," I whispered. She pulled away, eyes wide, pulse racing at her throat. "Don't answer it," she said, almost desperate. I didn't. But the knock came again, louder this time, and whatever was about to happen hung between us, trembling, one heartbeat away from being real. The knock came again, sharper this time. Elena's eyes darted to the door, then back to me. "Please," she whispered. "Don't." But I'd already moved. The air between us snapped like a string pulled too tight. I opened the door halfway. It was Liam. He stepped in, shaking off rain, half grinning. "Man, sorry, didn't know you were still here." His words stopped when he saw her. Oh. Professor Reed? Her name landed like a secret exposed. He knew her. She didn't speak, just stood frozen by the easel, every trace of softness gone from her face. You two know each other? I asked, my voice too rough. Liam hesitated, glancing between us. Yeah, she used to teach at the university. Thought she'd left years ago. Elena forced a small smile. Apparently, the world is smaller than we think. But her hands betrayed her, fingers clasping tighter around her bag strap, the same way she did when she was nervous. When Liam left a few minutes later, the silence he left behind wasn't the same. It was heavier, sharper. I closed the door slowly, waiting for her to say something. She didn't. Instead, she walked toward the portrait, fingertips brushing over the outline of her face I'd drawn. You didn't tell me he knew, she said. I didn't know. Her voice trembled, not with anger, but with fear. If he says something, he won't. You don't know that. I took a step closer. Elena, stop. She turned sharply, eyes wet, jaw tight. You don't understand what this could cost me. I'm not trying to ruin anything. Her laugh was soft, bitter. You already did. The words hit harder than they should have. I wanted to reach for her, to make her look at me again, but she was already walking toward the window. Rain streaked the glass behind her, the city lights fractured into gold and shadow. I left teaching because of this, she said finally. My stomach dropped. Because of what? She turned then, slowly, painfully, and met my eyes. Because someone thought I got too close to a student. It wasn't true, but it didn't matter. People believe what they want. She took a shuddering breath. When I saw you again, I told myself it was harmless. That it wouldn't happen twice. I couldn't speak. Her lip trembled slightly, and she looked away. You make it hard to be careful. The distance between us dissolved. I crossed the room before thinking, my hand finding hers. She didn't pull away. Her pulse was racing beneath my fingers. I'm not him, I said quietly. Whatever happened before. I'm not him. I know. Her voice cracked. That's what terrifies me. She looked up then, eyes glistening, torn between fight and surrender. Outside, thunder rolled again, closer this time. The light flickered. Elena, I whispered, her name breaking in my mouth. She didn't answer, she just leaned forward, the space between us shrinking until her breath brushed against my cheek. I can't keep pretending, she murmured. Her hand lifted, hesitant, trembling, as if to touch my face. And then she stopped. We're past pretending, I said. Her eyes widened, caught between want and warning. Then she let out a slow, trembling breath, and stepped closer anyway. The rain hadn't stopped. It had turned to a soft, steady rhythm against the window, the kind that fills every silence, every hesitation. The air in the studio felt charged, trembling, like the world was holding its breath with us. Elena stood near the easel, eyes down, shoulders tense. I could see her fighting something invisible, pride, fear, maybe both. The portrait of her on the canvas loomed behind her like a secret we'd both built, and could no longer deny. You shouldn't have said that, she murmured. I meant it. She looked up, and for once, there was no shield in her gaze. Just exhaustion and want, tangled together. Do you even know what you're asking for? I'm not asking, I said softly. I'm here. A muscle in her jaw twitched. You think this is simple? You think desire fixes anything? No, I said, stepping closer. But pretending doesn't either. She turned away, but I caught her wrist, not hard, just enough for her to stop. The movement startled her. She didn't pull back. The space between us disappeared. I could feel the warmth radiating from her, the faint tremor in her breath. My thumb brushed against the inside of her wrist, tracing the pulse that betrayed every word she wasn't saying. Tell me to stop, I whispered. Her eyes lifted to mine. You wouldn't. I swallowed hard. You're right. Her lips parted slightly. A drop of rain slid down from her hairline, tracing her cheek before falling onto my hand. Neither of us moved to wipe it away. For a moment, nothing else existed, just the hum of rain, the taste of hesitation, the fragile gravity pulling us closer. Then she spoke, voice low, breaking through the storm between us. "You remind me what it felt like to be alive again." She said it like a confession, and it hurt in the best way possible. I stepped closer until her back brushed the edge of the table. My hand moved to her face, hesitant, reverent, brushing a strand of hair away. She didn't breathe. Her eyes fluttered closed for half a second, then opened again, meeting mine with terrifying honesty. "Do you want this?" I asked, my voice barely holding steady. "I've wanted this since the first time you looked at me like you saw more than I let anyone see." The words fell between us, heavy and final. She leaned forward just enough that her breath mingled with mine, warm, trembling, unguarded. For a heartbeat, the world felt perfectly still. But then she hesitated, her hand pressing lightly against my chest. "If we do this," she whispered, "we can't go back." I nodded. "Maybe we're not supposed to." And that was it, the quiet, inevitable truth either of us could unhear. Her hand slid down, fingers intertwining with mine, and we stood there, suspended between what we'd already done and what we were about to do, no lies left, no safe distance. Outside, the rain finally eased, leaving behind the faint hum of thunder. She looked at me, eyes soft, voice unsteady. "Now you know." And I did. Everything we'd been avoiding, every glance, every silence, every almost, had been leading here. There was no pretending left. Only the truth, fragile and undeniable, breathing between us. The storm was gone by morning. The city outside had turned quiet, washed clean, the kind of silence that feels like an answer after too many questions. Elena sat on the couch in my studio, her hands wrapped around a mug I'd handed her. The faint smell of coffee mixed with rain and charcoal, the scent of everything that had happened here. Neither of us spoke at first. Words felt too sharp for the soft calm between us. The world hadn't fallen apart like we feared. It had just settled. She looked different in the daylight, not softer, not younger, just real. Her hair still slightly damp, her eyes tired but open. "You don't regret it?" she asked quietly. I shook my head. "No." She gave a small laugh, the kind that carries both relief and disbelief. "You should," she said. "I'm complicated. I know. I've got a past that people still whisper about. I've heard worse stories." She smiled then, a slow, honest one that reached her eyes. For the first time, I saw the woman she hid behind control and distance. The one who'd been scared of wanting again. "I spent years being careful," she said. "Too careful. I forgot what it felt like to just feel." I reached out, brushing my thumb gently along her wrist. "You don't have to forget anymore." She looked down at our hands, the age difference visible in the lines, the contrast between her steady poise and my untested certainty. But instead of pulling away, she laced her fingers through mine. The gesture was simple, but it said everything. "People will talk," she murmured. "Let them." She laughed again, softer this time, leaning back, her head resting lightly against my shoulder. The warmth of her pressed into me, grounding everything that had felt impossible before. "I used to think stories like this only ended badly," she said. "Maybe that's because people stop writing before they get to the part where it works." She turned her head slightly, looking up at me. Her expression was somewhere between wonder and surrender. "And what part is this?" I smiled faintly. "The part where it's real." Outside, the clouds broke apart, thin sunlight filtering through the glass. Dust floated in the light like small, forgiving stars. I could still feel her heartbeat against my arm, steady, calm, alive. We didn't need to say "I love you." It was in the way she relaxed against me, in the way my thumb traced small circles against her hand, in the way either of us rushed to fill the silence. For the first time, there was no tension. No guilt. Just quiet understanding, two people finally standing still after running in circles around the same truth. She reached up and pressed a kiss to my forehead, slow, certain. The kind that says, "We made it through." I closed my eyes, holding her closer. Outside, the rain had stopped for good,